y'all, welcome back for another episode of Woman in White Coats by MD Tribe. Today we have Dr. Erin Carlquist, who is an FSU alumni, who also went to FSU for undergrad, so a two-time graduate. She is a pathologist here in Tallahassee. She is a mother of soon-to-be 3, and she manages it all with such grace. On top of that, she has her own mentoring program called Doc Hers. So if you guys are interested in medicine and pathology, which is a very, I guess, not really talked about specialty, this is the woman for you. You have to check out this video, this podcast, this vlog, however you want to watch it, but make sure you listen because she has such awesome things to say and just gives us really good insight on what it's like to be a pathologist. So without further ado, here's Woman in White Coats by MD Tribe. Episodes of Women in White Coats with one of the most amazing doctors I know. So can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Erin Carlquist. I am a physician. I'm an MD pathologist. I do mostly dermatopathology, and I am a wife and a mom. I have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and another one on the way.
And where did you do your medical school training?
I grew up in Tallahassee, went to Florida State University for undergrad in Tallahassee, and to Florida State for medical school. So I stuck around because why change it? I was with a winner. I loved it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just dive right in. I'm going to start with some questions. So I'm a big believer that everybody has a life outside of medicine. I know you have a growing family. So what do you do outside of the clinic?
So most of my time these days is just devoted to my family, spending time with the kids. They're at an age where they're very active and have a lot of energy. So we spend a lot of time playing and having fun when I'm off of work and outside going for walks. We just got a puppy. We just got a golden doodle. And so we spend a lot of time trying to train a puppy that's a little crazy at the moment. And I also really enjoy trying to stay on top of physical fitness, and recently the last 2 years I've been doing CrossFit, and so I'm kind of still an amateur CrossFitter, but now a pregnant CrossFitter, but which is different too, but it's really enjoyable. I like it a lot.
Since I know now you're expecting your 3rd child, how have you been able to manage that with, being a full physician?
Well, it's probably easier than it was with the 1st and 2nd kids. I had my 1st in residency, my 2nd in fellowship, and now my 3rd in this will be my 3rd year of practice. And it's actually a little bit easier now than it was before because I have more control over my schedule at least, so that's nicer. I am super blessed to be at a practice in town. I'm at a private practice, pathology practice, and also we get to, of course, as you know, work with medical students. We do a lot of teaching and stuff as well, and I take medical students to rotate, so that's great, but primarily it's a private practice, and we get a good amount of vacation time, which is, you can't put a price on that. It's just amazing. So it's really nice to have more of a flexible schedule and a good amount of vacation that you definitely didn't see when you're a resident or a fellow. So I've got a lot more flexibility now as far as my schedule goes. And also pathology just in general. It's, depending on who you're talking to, that's a woman in medicine that's going through a pregnancy, depending on your specialty, it's going to be, and your setting of your practice, it's going to be very different. It's a lot more conducive to family life in a lot of ways just because of that, which is really, really nice. Not to say that we don't work hard, and I do take call several weeks a year, but it's just different. Pathology is a very unique area, and in a lot of ways is very amazing and definitely family friendly in a lot of ways. So depending on what practice you're in, there's some practices may not be like that, but most of them overall, as a rule, they tend to be more family friendly.
Okay, super interesting, because it, like you said, there's a huge variety of like, it's really hard or it's very flexible. So that's interesting to hear. Okay, so why did you decide to pursue medicine?
I was very undecided going through college. I actually walked on campus during my orientation day at FSU saying, I'm going to be pre-med, I'm going to do biology or whatever, makes sense as my major. And they make you kind of declare it that day, or they try to encourage you to. And I totally freaked out and was like, no one in my family has been a doctor. I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody else here seems super smart, and I don't know what I'm thinking. This is ridiculous. I'm going to do business. Everyone in my family is either a teacher or in business. So that's what I'm doing. And then it took 2.5 years to come back around after I explored business, didn't like it, other majors. I went through at least 4 majors and ended up back at biology as my major and back to pre-med. So it was not something I felt confident in right away. It was always something I was very interested in. I just always liked science. I was always intrigued by the thought of going into medicine. But like I said, I think I was very cautious and very intimidated by the field because I didn't have family. I do have one uncle married into the family that is a physician. It's a family medicine physician, but he's not one of the closest people to me that I interact with all the time, so I didn't have anybody that was very close to the family that I was able to confide in and see, how to navigate that and where to go.
Yeah.
So it took a little while to figure it out, more of process of elimination of everything else until I finally decided that, okay, maybe I was right in the first place, and medicine is really what I do want to do. So let's figure it out.
Yeah. And when you were applying to medical school, did you go straight in after undergrad, or did you take any gap years?
No, that was the plan. It's everybody's plan to be a traditional medical graduate going right into medical school, or undergraduate going right into medical school. And I very much tried to not use those words anymore because I feel like I work with a lot of pre-meds and mentoring and stuff. And there's such a stigma people put on themselves, even if you don't go straight from the last day of graduation right into medical school, somehow failed, they didn't do it the right way, they, somebody else, got ahead of them by 1 year, which it's not a race with anybody else. It's your own journey. And I did not. I was totally planning on it, but the MCAT was not my friend and took me longer to get the score that I needed to get in order to get accepted into medical school. I really wanted to stay at FSU. And so it took a little bit longer. Actually graduated in August, so I didn't take quite a whole year off because FSU starts in May. But I took that length of 8 or 9 months and worked during that time and got clinical experience working like a medical assistant type position at a dermatology practice in town. And so I got made really good connections with people that I actually were mentors to me all the way through medical school, residency, fellowship, now are my colleagues that they send me because I'm a dermatopathologist and it's a dermatology practice that I now see their cases and sign out, the skin cancers and stuff that they're cutting out, which is really pretty cool to see that come back around.
Yeah.
And never knew that was what I was going to do, but it ended up being a very crucial relationship and experience for me that I didn't know. I was just like, I have to do something for this time. I'd prefer to make money because I'm poor and I was, going to spend a lot of money going to medical school. So it really worked out, and then even more than what I expected. So I think that kind of removing some of that negative connotation to like non-traditional applicants going into medical school, and recognizing that, yeah, it might be taking you an extra year or several years, but what you're doing in the meantime is really important and can be really, really important to your future, just like mine was. I had no idea what it was going to mean, but having those relationships now is really important to my career. So
would you say that the dermatology experience, I know you said it was like a crucial role, but do you think it played a role in you choosing pathology as a residency?
No, not necessarily. I think it was crucial once I found pathology. It was crucial in me figuring out within pathology what I wanted to do, because I knew that I enjoyed dermatology. And so then I said, oh, dermatology and pathology, this is a whole niche in that career. I didn't realize that's where I was going to be. I thought, like everybody does when they apply to, especially like a school like Florida State that's very primary care centered, I thought it was going to be primary care physician. I thought it was going to be family medicine, maybe general surgery or OB or something. I didn't know exactly what, but pathology was like the last thing. Working at the dermatologist office, I learned what pathologists were because they would send frozen section to the pathologist while they were cutting out a skin cancer. And like, there's this whole process that I'm now very involved in that I didn't even know existed until I worked there. And that was my first little introduction to pathology. So in a way, it did like kind of plant that seed in my head. But at that time, it still wasn't, oh, there's this area of pathology. That sounds cool. Let's do that. I was like, pathology, okay, that's a thing. I know about it. And I'm not interested. I was like, flat out not interested. But just like how I explored so many things in undergrad, I explored a lot of every rotation that you go through in third year of medical school. And nothing, I couldn't commit to anything. Like, I liked a lot of different things. People told me that I could fit in a lot of different areas, but I couldn't commit to a specialty. And then I was in panic mode because it was literally the end of third year. Like, I had like a couple months before I had to be sending in my applications to residency, and I didn't even know what specialty I was going to do. So luckily at FSU, I had a very good student support coordinator at the Pensacola campus, Twyla, and she really was patient with me and really did the work with me and sat me down and asked me what I like about different rotations, what I don't like about different rotations, what I wanted, what my goals were just in life, like what I saw as my future career setting and all sorts of different things, and kind of came up with 3 different things for me to explore. And I shadowed, not even officially like a rotation, I shadowed anesthesiology and pathology. And anesthesia, I could tell in a day. I was like, oh no. My thing at all. I like the OR, actually. I really liked surgery, but I did not like anesthesiology. And then pathology, once I actually went and was physically there in a pathologist office and going through the pathology lab and really learning about it, it just, everything fell into place, and we had a big leap of faith in a lot of ways to commit to it, because I had basically all my applications were already like ready to go for pathology residency before I even did like a 2-week, my only rotation in pathology. And I loved it. So, and I still love it. Like, it's definitely where I belong. And it's such an exciting and unique and really perfect field for me, and something that I think is really not considered. Like, I didn't consider it at all.
Yeah.
But I'm so lucky. Basically 100%. I give all this to Twyla, my student support coordinator in Pensacola, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have found it. I would have ended up in some area of medicine that I probably would have liked, but I don't think I would have fit like I do in pathology. So yeah, it was definitely not love at first sight or anything like that with me in pathology, but it's an awesome field, and I love my job. So yeah.
So right now that I'm in medical school, when I think of pathology, I think it's a lot of histology, a lot of understanding what things are supposed to look like, and identifying when things go wrong. Mm-hmm. How would you say pathology translates to your everyday? Like, what do you do in the everyday as a pathologist?
People who tend to gravitate towards pathology tend to be very visual, tend to like black or white answers, like to be able to come up with a diagnosis, and don't like the gray area that you have in a lot of medicine. They like to look at things under the microscope, be able to identify patterns, and really enjoy the disease processes themselves more than the treatment and management of the diseases, because we have almost no involvement in patient care and management. We receive tissue from surgeons and clinicians, process it, and make it into a glass slide that we look at under the microscope. And that's what I do all day. I basically go to the office, and our lab has been working all night long processing this tissue for us and making them into the glass slides that I then have ready in my office in the morning to look at. And each one, corresponds to a patient, and maybe a patient's skin biopsy, or a patient's GI biopsy from a polyp that they took out during a colonoscopy, or part of a breast cancer from a mastectomy, whatever. It's anything that can be taken out of the patient. I do more dermatopathology because that's my specialty, but as a pathologist, I can look at any of that. Mm-hmm. Then just looking at it under the microscope and rendering a diagnosis and producing a report with the diagnosis and my microscopic findings that I kind of describe what I see under the microscope. And then it's kind of done. Like, then I move on to the next case and the next patient, essentially. In certain cases, we don't have like a black or white answer, and we may give them a differential diagnosis as to this could be multiple different things. I can't give you a real answer from whatever this small piece of tissue is that represents this larger lesion or tumor. And we might give recommendations as to maybe we need more tissue. If it's a biopsy, like a small little needle core biopsy of a lymph node, maybe I need to look at the whole lymph node. Maybe you just need to monitor the patient and come back a little bit later. So there's a little bit of that, but really I have no interaction one-on-one with patients. And ultimately it's up to the clinician or the surgeon to decide what they're gonna do with their patients. So that's really all I do all day long, is take these glass slides, make a diagnosis, come up with a report, and it gets signed out and sent back to the clinician. And that's just over and over again all day long. But it can be kind of monotonous and boring sounding to some people, but it's really fun and exciting for people that like problem solving. And like I said, actually coming up with an answer the majority of the time is rewarding. One really good thing about pathology is that For me, on a normal day, like an average day, I would say I see about 75, 80 patients a day.
Oh, wow.
Like at least double to triple what a clinician is going to see a day. So I get to, although I don't one-on-one interact with patients, I get to impact more patients' lives. I like to kind of think of it like that, even though I don't get to see them in person. The impact that I'm making is even broader than I would be able to if I was in a different area of medicine. So I really enjoy that.
That's so cool. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a lot of patients that you're seeing in one day.
Yeah, and depending on the area that you specialize in, you might be able to see more or less patients because skin biopsies are really small pieces of tissue. So I can look at more of those in the same amount of time than somebody that will look at like one breast cancer case. So it depends a little bit on what your specialty, your subspecialty within pathology is. But in general, you're going to impact more patients' lives each day than if you were seeing them one-on-one as patient encounters.
So can you tell us a little bit about because you entered the match, and I know you were kind of pressed because you decided really last minute. What was that experience like? Like, how many places did you apply to and interview at?
I don't even know. I applied like everywhere because it was so last minute and I had no connections to the pathology world. There's not that many people from FSU that have gone into pathology, and I was deciding so last minute. I hadn't established relationships or like a network of people. I didn't know programs out there, so I very broadly applied. And I ended up interviewing kind of at random places, and then I liked all of them though, all the way from like New York to Texas, and I ended up in Alabama. So I was in Pensacola at the Pensacola regional campus for my 3rd and 4th years, and then Mobile's 45 minutes west on I-10, and so it was very, very close by, and it ended up being the perfect residency program for me, and I ranked it number 1. That's where I ended up for 4 years for my pathology residency and loved it. It was a great experience.
Okay. And after pathology, I know you did a fellowship, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that, how long was that?
So in pathology, I kind of equate it to internal medicine, where not only like do you have the option, like everyone in pathology, you have the option of doing all of these different fellowships afterwards. Like in internal medicine, you can do GI or nephrology or critical care, pulmonary, cardiology. You can do very many things from internal medicine and have like totally different looking career than somebody that you went to residency with for 3 years in internal medicine. Same with pathology. There's so many different subspecialties. Basically any organ system you can think of, as well as forensic medicine and different clinical areas as well that you can subspecialize in. After the 4-year pathology residency, almost, I don't remember the statistic, it's like 90% at least of pathology residents go on to do a fellowship of some kind. Most of them are only 1 year though. So we have a 4-year residency. We don't have any intern year in pathology, which is kind of unique. So you go straight into your 1st year of pathology, which is nice. So you finish in 4 years and then a 1-year fellowship of some kind. So I did that in Dallas, and it was with a group called ProPath, where they were the sponsor of that fellowship. But this is a very weird area of pathology. Like most pathologists don't see patients at all. But when you do dermatopathology, there's people that are pathologists and dermatologists that can both come in and do a dermatopathology fellowship.
Okay.
Whether you come from the pathology or the dermatology side. But no other areas like GI, pathologists are not GI doctors or pathologists. They're all just pathologists. It's just a very unique area. So There's a lot of clinical training that comes along with your fellowship year if you were the pathology trained fellow. So since I was pathology trained, I had to do a lot of the dermatology side of clinical training during that year and saw patients like I hadn't seen patients since medical school. It was really weird. If you came from the dermatology side of things, then you have more training in general pathology. So you kind of complement whatever you didn't get in residency, but it's kind of unique in that way.
And then you moved back to Tallahassee.
Yes, so it's a small town and one pathology practice here. So I was very blessed to be able to have something open up at the right time for right when I was done with training to be able to move back and join the practice here. So it was unexpected. I didn't think it was going to happen, but it worked out perfectly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, so much. I literally have learned so much about pathology. So I didn't know much about it before, but listening to everything you're saying, it's like, wow, it's like a whole other world.
It's a totally hidden, I think it's like one of the best hidden gems in medicine that, don't let the secret out too much. Don't let too many people know. But no, really, it's an amazing area of medicine. It definitely takes the right person to really enjoy it. And I would never, ever recommend that a woman physician goes into a specialty just because that specialty happens to tend to be more conducive to family life or anything like that. But that is like a bonus. It's a side bonus for sure. But I would never recommend somebody to go into a specialty primarily because of that. I think that every woman, especially in medicine, should find what they are super passionate about and then make that work for if they just are somebody that wants to have a family one day, make that work for them. Because you can do almost anything, the most demanding areas of medicine, OBGYN, and make that work and be pretty flexible if you're willing to figure it out. So sometimes it takes time to get there, but yeah, I think that never compromise where your passions lie just for more convenient schedule or anything. But there's some practices that people work for in maybe bigger cities or something in pathology that can be super busy and, just as many hours in a week as like a general surgeon. So it just depends.
I actually came across you as an M1 because I saw your Doc Hers mentorship program. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And if someone were interested to become your mentor, how can they get more information about it?
I started, I call it Doc Hers, DOCHERS, in training officially, not even a year ago now, like officially doing group coaching and personal coaching. I kind of have always been somebody that gravitates towards just working with people who are, just a step or two behind where I'm at in mentorship, and mostly to allow people to learn from my mistakes and not do the things that I have done in the past, and just lend a little bit of the wisdom maybe that I've gotten, which, I'm always learning. So there's always something new to learn and add to your toolbox. But I really, really enjoy working with not only pre-meds, but medical students and residents as well, going through this whole crazy process that we go through. I offer a lot of just mentorship on social media. I'm on there as Erin Carlquist, MD, and I talk to a lot of people just through DMs and answer as many questions as I can that way. And then I also have people who sign on with me for a program for the whole semester at a time, doing group coaching, personal coaching, working on whatever, there's so many things that come up when you're going through this crazy life of medical school and residency and beyond. And just having somebody that's unbiased and has been there and understands and walk you through it. And I have a few tricks and tips that I've developed along the way as well that I like to share, as well as I help with people's applications, going to medical school, personal statements and stuff like that. So it's just something that I enjoy doing in my free time, and hopefully help somebody.
So if you had 2 last golden nuggets to offer to a pre-med or somebody that's pre-health, interested in going into pathology, anything, what would it be?
I was always a yes person, and I've been working on that in the last few years since I've been out in practice, of not just saying yes to everything, because I have learned that you can say you can say yes to everything if you want to, but you only have so many hours in the day. And I think that especially as women, like, we can literally do anything, like totally can conquer the world, can do anything, but you can't do everything at the same time. Like, you just can't do it at the same time. So I think picking and choosing, just knowing that you can do anything, you can't do everything, knowing that you only have so many hours in the day. And if you say yes to something, I don't know, they were exact quote, somebody, I see this in different versions all the time now, that if you pick something and you say yes to, you're saying no to something else or to someone else. So it takes time to learn how to be more selective, and I think that's a very good skill to learn. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is kind of what I've already said. I think as one of the things that people DM me about or are just super stressed out about with going into medicine in general is like, if I say yes to medicine, if I go into medicine, am I ever going to have the option of having a family or getting married, or do I have to put like my whole life on hold until I'm done with all of this and then start thinking about that? Like, how do you do both at the same time? And I think that you never should have to choose. You can always figure it out, kind of like what I was saying with not choosing your specialty based on the convenience or lifestyle of that specialty or the perceived convenience of that lifestyle, because you can always make it your own and make it work for you. And same with medical school, same people make it work. So if you have something, medicine can be just as important to you as getting married, having a partner, having a family, having time for your dog. It doesn't matter what it is, like, you have other things that make you uniquely you. And that, I know that I don't work one-on-one with patients, but I think that as a physician, when you're a physician that works one-on-one with patients, that having that aspect of realness to you, where you have things outside of medicine that are interests, make you a lot more approachable and likable to your patients and make them trust you more. I think that's really important for physicians in general. So never sacrifice your goals and passions to just do one thing or the other. I think you can always make it work, but like I said, you might not be able to do all your stuff that you want to do at this exact same time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that and just like taking us through your journey and just providing so much wisdom. Like, it's really incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. Good journey.
I hope you have an amazing day, and I wish you nothing but the best on this new baby that you have on the way.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm so excited.